MSNBC is an American basic cable and satellite television network that provides news coverage and political opinion on current events. It is owned by the NBC Universal News Group, a unit of the NBC Universal Television Group division of NBC Universal. MSNBC and MSNBC.com were founded in 1996 as separate partnerships between Microsoft and General Electric's NBC unit, hence the network's naming. Although they shared the same name of MSNBC.com and MSNBC maintained separate corporate structures and news operations, with MSNBC.com headquartered on the West Coast on the Microsoft campus in Redmond, Washington, and MSNBC in the NBC headquarters in New York. Microsoft divested its stake in the MSNBC channel in 2005, and divested its stake in MSNBC.com in July 2012, rebranding the general news site as NBCnews.com and creating a new MSNBC.com as the online home of the cable news channel. As of February 2015, approximately 94,531,000 households receive MSNBC within the United States of America. Beginning in the mid-2000s, MSNBC's opinion programming increasingly reflected its concept of political liberalism. In October 2010, it publicly acknowledged this with a marketing campaign it called Lean Forward. Further, in September 2013, MSNBC launched its revamped official website under the tagline, "What progressives have been waiting for." Commentators have described MSNBC as having a bias which favored left-wing politics and the Democratic Party. In 2011, Politico referred to MSNBC as left-leaning, in reference to changes in the channel's evening programming. Senior Vice President of NBC News Phil Griffin has said that, "It happened naturally. There isn't a dogma we're putting through. There is a go for it." For the week of June 9, 2014, MSNBC placed 26th in primetime and 30th in total day, averaging 597,000 viewers and 336,000 viewers, respectively. History. Development. MSNBC was established by NBC executive Tom Rogers. Rogers was instrumental in developing the strategic partnership with Microsoft, which invested $221 million for a 50% share of the cable channel. MSNBC and Microsoft would share the cost of a $200 million newsroom in Secaucus, New Jersey, for MSNBC.com. The network took over the channel space of NBC's 18-month-old America's Talking Network, though in most cases cable carriage had to be negotiated with providers who never carried it. Early history. MSNBC was launched on July 15, 1996. The first show, which was anchored by Jody Applegate, broadcast a lineup of news, interviews, and opinions. During the day, rolling news coverage continued with The Contributors, a show that featured Ann Coulter and Laura Ingraham, as well as interactive programming coordinated by Applegate, John Gibson and John Seigenthaler. Stories were generally longer and more detailed than the stories running on CNN at the time. NBC also highlighted their broadcast connections by airing stories direct from the NBC network affiliates, along with breaking news coverage from the same sources. Gradually, MSNBC began to put more emphasis on politics. The Project for Excellence in Journalism found in 2007, after a 7-year survey of cable channels, that MSNBC is moving to make politics a brand, with a large dose of opinion and personality. In January 2001, Mike Barnicle got a show on MSNBC, but it was cancelled in June 2001 due to high production costs. In June, in a sign of continuing trouble at MSNBC, Microsoft's CEO Steve Ballmer said that he would not have started MSNBC if he knew then what he knows now. After the September 11, 2001 attacks, MSNBC served as an outlet for NBC News to provide up-to-the-minute coverage. In contrast to broadcast NBC's longer stories, CNBC and CNBC Europe, with little financial news to report, ran MSNBC for many hours of the day following the attacks. The year also boosted the profile of Ashley Banfield, who was present during the collapse of Building 7 while covering the World Trade Center on September 11. Her Region in Conflict program capitalized on her newfound celebrity and showcased exclusive interviews from Afghanistan. On December 23, 2005, it was announced that NBC Universal would acquire an additional 32% share of the television channel from Microsoft, solidifying its control over television operations and allowing NBC to further consolidate MSNBC's backroom operations with NBC News and its other cable properties. NBC would have the option, which it exercised, to buy the remaining 18% share of the television from Microsoft after 2 years. MSNBC, along with other U.S. news networks, had been criticized for having a distorted and biased media coverage of the Iraq War. The network began from 2005 onward to attract liberal and progressive viewers when host Keith Olbermann began critiquing and satirizing conservative media commentators on his program Countdown with Keith Olbermann. Olbermann especially focused his attention to Fox News Channel and its main primetime commentator, Bill O'Reilly. On June 7, 2006, Rick Kaplan resigned as president of MSNBC, after holding the post for 2 years. Following the announcement, it was announced on June 12, 2006, that Dan Abrams, a 9-year veteran of MSNBC and NBC News, had been named general manager of MSNBC, effective immediately. NBC News senior vice president Phil Griffin would oversee MSNBC, while also continuing to oversee NBC News Today, and Abrams would report to Griffin. On June 29, 2006, Abrams announced a revamp to MSNBC's early primetime and primetime schedule. On July 10, Tucker started airing at 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. ET, while Rita Cosby's Live and Direct was taken off the schedule. Cosby was instead given the role of primary anchor for MSNBC Investigates at 10 and 11 p.m. ET, a new program that took over Cosby and Carlson's time slots. According to the press release, MSNBC Investigates promised to complement MSNBC's existing programming by building on the channel's library of award-winning documentaries. The move to taped programming during 10 and 11 p.m. was likely a result of the success that MSNBC saw with their Friday experiment of replacing all primetime programming with taped specials. On September 24, 2007, Abrams announced that he would leave the position of general manager to focus on his 9 p.m. ET talk show, Live with Dan Abrams. Oversight of MSNBC is now provided by Phil Griffin, a senior vice president at NBC. MSNBC and NBC News began broadcasting from their new studios at NBC's 30 Rockefeller Center complex in New York City on October 22, 2007. After extensive renovations of the associated studios, NBC essentially merged its entire news operation into one building, and all MSNBC broadcasts, as well as NBC Nightly News, originate from the new studios. More than 12.5 hours of live television across the NBC News family originate from the New York studios daily. MSNBC is also expected to expand West Coast operations, as the channel recently announced new studios near the Universal Studios lot, which will assemble all NBC West Coast news operations in one building. MSNBC's master control did not make the move to 30 Rock. It remained in the old Secaucus headquarters until it completed its move to the NBC Universal Network Origination Center located inside the CNBC Global Headquarters building in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, on December 21, 2007. Shortly thereafter, Major League Baseball firmed up a long-term lease of the former MSNBC building to become the home studios of MLB Network, which launched from the facility on January 1, 2009. 2008 to 2015. From mid-2007 to mid-2008, MSNBC received a large increase in its ratings. Primetime viewings increased by 61% over that time. In May 2008, NBC News President Steve Capus said that, "It used to be people didn't have to worry about MSNBC because it was an also-ran cable channel. That's not the case anymore." Tim Russert's sudden death in June 2008 removed what the Wall Street Journal called the rudder for the network, and led to a period of transition. During the 2008 presidential election, MSNBC's coverage was anchored by Keith Olbermann, Chris Matthews and David Gregory. The three were widely viewed as the face of the channel's political coverage. During the first 3 months of the presidential campaign, MSNBC's ratings grew by 158%. However, during the election coverage, anchors Keith Olbermann and Chris Matthews were criticized for expressing left-leaning viewpoints on the channel, and both of them were later removed from the position of anchor. Audience viewership during the 2008 presidential election more than doubled from the 2004 presidential election, and the channel topped CNN in ratings for the first time during the last 3 months of the campaign in the key 25 to 54 age demographic. In September 2008, the channel hired political analyst and Air America radio personality Rachel Maddow to host a new political opinion program called The Rachel Maddow Show. The move to create a new program for the channel was widely seen as a smart ratings move, where beforehand, MSNBC lagged behind in coveted primetime ratings. The show regularly outperformed CNN's Larry King Live, and made the channel competitive in the program's time slot for the first time in over a decade. In the first quarter of 2010, MSNBC beat CNN in primetime and overall ratings, marking the first time doing so since 2001. The channel also beat CNN in total adult viewers in March, marking the 7th out of the past 8 months that MSNBC achieved that result. In addition, the program's Morning Joe, The Ed Show, Hardball with Chris Matthews, Countdown with Keith Olbermann, and The Rachel Maddow Show all finished ahead of their time-slot competitors on CNN. In the third quarter of 2010, MSNBC continued its solid lead over CNN, beating the network in total day for the first time since 2Q 2001 in the key adult demographic. The network also beat CNN for the 4th consecutive quarter, among both primetime and total viewers, as well as becoming the only cable news network to have its key adult demographic viewership grow over the last quarter, increasing by 4%. During this time, MSNBC also became the #1 cable news network in primetime among both African American and Hispanic viewers. On October 11, 2010, MSNBC unveiled a new televised advertising campaign and slogan called "Lean Forward. We've taken on CNN and we beat them," MSNBC President Phil Griffin told employees at a series of celebratory town hall meetings. "Now it's time to take on Fox." Concerning the campaign, Griffin said, "It is active, it is positive, it is about making tomorrow better than today. A discussion about politics and the actions and passions of our time. The new campaign embraces the network's politically progressive identity. The two-year advertising campaign would cost $2 million and consist of internet, television, and print advertising. The new positioning has created brand image issues for Msnbc.com, the umbrella website for the television network. A New York Times article quotes Charlie Tillinghast, president of Msnbc.com, a separate company, as saying, "Both strategies are fine, but naming them the same thing is brand insanity." As a result, Msnbc.com eventually changed its name to prevent confusion with the television network, MSNBC. It rebranded the more news-driven MSNBC.com as NBCnews.com in July 2012. On January 21, 2011, Keith Olbermann announced his departure from MSNBC, and the episode would be the final episode of Countdown. His departure received much media attention. MSNBC issued a statement that it had ended its contract with Olbermann, with no further explanation. Olbermann later revealed that he had taken his show to Current TV. During 2014, MSNBC's total ratings in the 25 to 54 age group declined 20%, falling to third place behind CNN. The only demographic in which MSNBC still leads is among Hispanics and even more so among African Americans. Return to hard news. 2015 present. In efforts to revive the struggling network, MSNBC underwent a transition from more opinionated programming to hard news programming beginning in the summer of 2015. Nearly all daytime opinionated news programs were replaced with generic news programs. News programs presented by well-established NBC News personalities, including Meet the Press anchor Chuck Todd, Sunday NBC Nightly News anchor Kate Snow, Thomas Roberts, and former NBC Nightly News anchor Brian Williams replaced opinion shows. A new on-air presentation debuted in late summer 2015, which included a new logo, a news ticker, as well as a new graphics package. MSNBC Live now takes up at least 8 hours of programming each day, barring any breaking news that could extend its time. Morning and primetime programming has not changed during this transition, as it remains filled by mostly opinionated personalities. Current MSNBC schedule. All daytime programs are subject to interruption at the discretion of MSNBC's executive producers for live coverage of developing news by chief breaking news anchor Brian Williams. Carriage issues. Prior to 2010, MSNBC was not available to Verizon, Fios and AT&T U-verse television subscribers in portions of New York, northern New Jersey, and Connecticut that overlapped Cablevision's service area. One of several reasons for this lack of availability was an exclusive carriage agreement between MSNBC and Cablevision, which prohibited competing wired providers from carrying MSNBC. The terms of the agreement were not publicly known. In 2009, Verizon petitioned the FCC with a formal program access complaint to terminate the deal. Connecticut Attorney General Richard Blumenthal also argued that the arrangement could be illegal. After reaching a new contract, Fios added the channel in New York City and in New Jersey on February 2, 2010. International broadcasts. MSNBC is shown only in the United States, Canada, South Africa, Kenya, parts of Latin America, and parts of Northern Africa. MSNBC Canada in 2001, a Canadian version with some local content. MSNBC Canada was developed. The channel launched on September 7, 2001. However, it was soon discontinued in 2004, and the Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission authorized the American version to be carried on Canadian cable and satellite providers. The channel was operated by Rogers Communications and co-owned by Rogers, Shaw and MSNBC, with each party owning a 33.33% voting interest in the service. Programming included MSNBC programs, as well as repeats of shows from the CBC and cable Public Affairs channel, as its way to fulfill its Canadian content requirements. The channel also ran infomercials, which the American service never shows. MSNBC Africa in Southern Africa. MSNBC is distributed free-to-air on satellite on Free2View TV as MSNBC Africa, a joint venture between Great Media Limited and MSNBC. Free2View airs MSNBC's programming from 4 p.m. to midnight ET in a block that repeats twice, with local Weather Channel forecasts. Botswana's national television broadcaster, BTV, also provides an unedited broadcast of MSNBC after their scheduled programming each evening. BTV is available within Botswana, as well as to Southern Africa viewers on DStv. TOP-TV, a satellite TV service in South Africa, also provides an unedited broadcast of MSNBC, which runs 24 hours a day. It is also available in Kenya through the cable service Zuku. Europe and Asia. In Asia and Europe, MSNBC is not shown on a dedicated channel. When MSNBC started in 1996, they announced plans to start broadcasting in Europe during 1997. This never happened. However, MSNBC programming is shown for a few hours a day on the 24-hour news network OSN News Middle East and North Africa. OSN News is a network of 3 24-hour satellite channels offering exclusively American news programming from ABC, NBC, PBS and MSNBC to U.S. expatriates and other viewers abroad, primarily geared towards an audience in the Arab countries. NBC Nightly News is shown on CNBC Europe at 0:30 CET. During breaking news events, MSNBC is also shown occasionally on affiliate channel CNBC Europe. NTV MSNBC in Turkey. NTV MSNBC is the news channel of the Turkish broadcaster NTV Turkey. The channel is a joint partnership between the two, although very little Turkish content makes its way onto English MSNBC. English content on MSNBC is translated to Turkish. Online. Launched concurrently with MSNBC was its website, msnbc.com. Unlike the network itself, MSNBC.com was operated as the general online news outlet of NBC News, partnering with Microsoft's MSN.com portal. The network and website also remained editorially separate. It did not adopt the network's increasingly liberal viewpoints, and remained a joint venture with Microsoft even after it sold its stake in the MSNBC channel. In July 2012, NBC acquired Microsoft's remaining stake in MSNBC.com, and rebranded it as NBCnews.com. After being redirected to the new name for a period, MSNBC.com was relaunched in 2013 as a website for the network itself, focusing on content such as opinion columns from hosts, correspondents and guests, and both live and on-demand videos from MSNBC programs. Shift. In July 2014, MSNBC.com launched MSNBC2, a brand for several web-only series hosted by MSNBC personalities. In December 2014, MSNBC2 was renamed Shift, with a programming schedule which is less focused on politics and is more tailored to a younger audience. Radio. The channel launched on XM Satellite Radio Channel 120 and Sirius Satellite Radio Channel 90 on April 12, 2010. This is the second time MSNBC has been available on satellite radio. The channel has been carried on XM before, but was subsequently dropped from the service on September 4, 2006.